When you want to compare two different groups of participants on some sort of variable, then you can do an independent samples t-test. To do this, you will need in the dataset one continuous dependent variable. For this, I'm going to be using final percent grade. And you will also need one between groups independent variable. So for this, I'm going to use gender, which has groups 1 and 2. So I'm going to be comparing how males and females did on final percent grade. To do this, you go to Analyze, Compare Means, and then Independent Samples t-test. In the test variable box, you put your dependent variable, which should be a little ruler, meaning that it's a scale variable. And in the grouping variable, you put your independent variable, which should be either the nominal symbol or the ordinal symbol. So put gender in here. And you can see that because we haven't defined which actual values are in the data set, SPSS will show us these two little question marks. So to define what those groups are or what those values are in the data set, we press the Define Groups button. In here, we simply tell SPSS that we're comparing, 1 and 2 in gender. It should match what you have in the data. Then you press Continue. For options, you can leave these the same. I've already explained these options in the single sample t-test video, so I won't go over them here, and you can ignore the bootstrap option. To run it, you press OK, and then SPSS will give you these two tables. In the first table, it will simply give you the descriptive statistics for each group in the gender variable. So you have your two groups that you want to compare, and then you get your means and standard deviation for each group. And then you will get the independent samples t-test table. So the first step for an independent samples t-test is to first see whether you have homogeneity of variance. So are those two groups the same? In this case, our test, which is shown in these first two columns, it says that the significance of this test is above 0.05. So this means that the test is not significant, which means that we fail to reject the null hypothesis. For Levine's test, this means that we can assume equal variances. If you need more help with Levine's test of equality of variances, then I've made another video on that. So because our test is not significant, to read the independent samples t-test table, we can use the top row where we can assume equal variances. If this value was significant, then we would use the bottom row. So we can look at the top row and we find that this is our t-value here, our degrees of freedom, and our significance of the test. Our significance is 0.206, which is greater than 0.05, which means that our test is not significant. So there is no significant difference for males and females on final percent grade.